Oh, hello YouTube. We're about a week away from the end of 2023, and before this shitty year departs, why don't we go through the my top 10 favourite films of the year. Normally when I do this, I wait right up till New Year's Eve to do my top 10 list. But this year, I can't really be fucked to edit YouTube videos over the Christmas break. So I'm doing it now. So my rules for my top 10 list are that it has to be released theatrically in the UK, because I'm in the UK in 2023. So if there's things on this and you're like, well, that's a 2022 year release, it wasn't where I live. So that's why there's some titles on here that you may think you saw on lists at the end of last year. But I'm very much doing things that were theatrically released in the UK or that I got an opportunity to see this year. That's kind of I got to see early this year. So the way that I kind of do my top 10 list is this isn't necessarily best to worst or worst to best. The way that I keep it, I've got a notepad on my phone, and I normally add to that my favourite films of the year. Just kind of as I'm thinking about it, I just think, yeah, that was really great straight away, and I put that on my list. Or something may just percolate on me for a while, and it may be weeks after I've seen it. I thought, yeah, I'm hankering to see that again, or I've been thinking about it loads, and then I put it on my list. So this isn't necessarily best to worst. This is very much my own kind of personal kind of journey through the year in my 10 favourite films of the year. And with all things, I may watch this back in 2 years' time and think I was totally wrong, but this is very much a reflection now. In fact, I may be wrong in a week's time. I've got the Christmas break coming up. I'm hoping to watch a shit ton of movies. My favourite film of the year may be a week away from me, in which case this video is outdated. We're shit out of luck, but who cares? These are all still films that I definitely would recommend. I haven't seen everything this year, so if I don't mention something that you think is the best film of the year, comment down below. Or what do you recommend? I recommend something and you've seen it too, and you really like it, then why don't you comment below and let me know your thoughts on it. Let's watch some trailers.
Time is the thing. Time is the essential piece of interpretation. You cannot start without me. I start the clock. However, unlike a clock, sometimes my second hand stops, which means time stops. The reality is that it's not until I once again decide to raise that hand that time is allowed to continue marching along her very merry way.
Okay, so in the first spot is Todd Field's Tar. Remember that rule about theatrically released in the UK, because this was released at the end of last year in the States and was an awards contender, so a lot of people did see this at the end of last year. But the UK, it came out in January of 2023. So Todd Field, his film Little Children, which came out in 2007, 2006. So we're talking like a long time ago that film came out. And it's taken this long for his next feature to come out. Little Children is one of my favourite films. Favourite films are like watching them for the first time every time, and Little Children's like that. So I was so anticipating seeing Tar. And Tar is, while it maybe is not quite as emotional and as easily accessible as Little Children, Tar is a great film from a filmmaker who just doesn't give a shit and is just trying something different. This is not going to be a film for everyone's taste, but if you like the fact that the end credits come up right at the beginning and you have to sit through them all in order to watch it, you're going to like this film. It really breaks the form. I think people will say there's very kind of long, very actory kind of moments of long dialogue scenes that most people won't really give a shit about, and I can agree with that. It's very much like it's a bit too much in its own world, but at the same time it's very much set in the world of classical music, which I think can be quite elitist really, and I think maybe this is the film tapping into that side of things. it has a really great feeling of, as you're going along, it's got this cool, steady sense of craft. But as it goes through towards the end, without giving too many spoilers away, it really starts going into unusual places. And it's got a real great level of ambiguity to it, which again will piss some people off. But for me, it's kind of part of the reason I loved it, that boldness of like, how it ends is not really explained. It's kind of can be interpreted in a lot of ways. I think very much this film was seen as very anti-women because it is a lead character who is a woman and is not particularly a nice character. However, it's a character who's really compelling to watch in a very compelling story. It is quite a lot about the creative process. It's quite a lot about ego. It's quite a lot about the perception that artists want to put across for themselves. And I guess for me, the coda at the end is like what really defines someone's passion for the art form that they love. So in my number 2 spot is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
There's so much nothing. She's the best. She... What? But my dad has pink shoes. So did my grandfather. So cute. Ugh. Peace. Yeah, obviously peace. Like, what a weird thing to try to test to see if someone else is into. Like, of course I'm into peace. No, sorry, I'm a real war person. No, war. Actually, I sign all my personal letters. War. Let the battle begin, Marcel.
So Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Again, another thing that came out theatrically in the States in 2022, but it only came out here in the UK in 2020, about February 2023. You could say this is a kids' film, and it is a kids' film. And being a parent of a child of kids' film age, there isn't enough of them. Which there just isn't. It feels like when I was a kid, there was always things, we could go out and see the cinema every month. Now being a parent, things that my kid is interested in or that are appropriate, they seem to come along pretty rarely. So people can slam sort of like Disney, Wish and all that sort of stuff. Actually, sometimes there's just a drought of kids content out there that is not IP driven and is not part of an interconnected universe that you have to have seen every other thing to kind of get into. So Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is kids can watch and enjoy, but at the same time is a great blend of stop motion animation. Well, in fact, I can't tell you whether it's stop motion animation or whether it's just really great handcrafted, unique visual effects and live action in a really unique form where it's almost like a pseudo documentary type thing that kids can watch, and it has a really sweet and charming central character. And the film has tons of, pathos and it's not afraid to go into melancholy, but at the same time, it's not too sad. Some ways, like as a kid, I remember seeing An American Tail, and that's sort of been really traumatic to watch as a kid. And it goes to places that the emotions in it are you don't want to really deal with as a kid. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On deals with that, but at the same time, it's still very kind of lovely, sweet, and charming. Really enjoyed it. Even if you don't have kids or you think this wouldn't be appropriate for your kid, I would really recommend seeing this as a really charming, sweet and poignant film that has ample amounts of melancholy to it, but also has tons of hope and good sense of fun to it. So Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, my number 2 spot. Oh, that sounds like poo. Number 2 spot. So changing gears entirely to my number 3 spot. Is Holy Spider.
اگر فقط دنبال زنای خراب
اگر اینجوری فکر کنید شما بشین اینور، من برم بشینم اونور. این سردوشه هم مال شما.
کثافتای خاک بر سر. یعنی میگن این در واقع این شخص طبق فتوا عمل میکنه.
فکر میکنید که پشت پرده داریم توطئه میکنیم. شما باید مراقب رفتارت باشی.
So, again, I think like I've said this with quite a lot of my picks so far. And this is very much true of Holy Spider. This is not a film for everyone. In fact, if I were recommending it, I would say you've got to be okay with relatively extreme cinema to enjoy this, because this is a tough watch. However, if you are into that type of thing, this is a really great, compelling thriller based on a true life subject matter in a city that I think most of us don't really have that much kind of exposure to in cinema, and we haven't really seen sort of narrative films set in it. And so the director Ali Alabashi's previous film, Border, was a film that came out maybe about 5 years ago now, which I really kind of was enthralled by, kind of this weird sort of weird modern fairy tale for grown-ups. This is totally different. This is like a crime thriller in the vein of Michael Mann, or Michael Mann, Manhunter type thing, about a journalist looking for a serial killer. But where it's really interesting is you get equal time with, you see the serial killer at work, and that's where kind of it is fairly unpleasant, and you see kind of him killing people and women, sex workers off the street. You see that process, and you also see what his family life is balanced in with that, and it's incredibly it looks very, the balance of the two is what makes it more and more disturbing. This is not a character who is Hannibal Lecter and is like creeping in the shadows. This is someone who has a family and in theory is just a member of society who's doing these things. And then the story of the journalist who's investigating this story again is really compelling. Great performance from the actress in that role, and the film is a really great thriller from that perspective. Where I think people have been talking quite a lot about, Barbie is like the Western representation of cinema of why women are repressed. Actually, Holy Spider is the real representation of why internationally why women are mistreated and persecuted. It is incredibly shocking that this is a true story, and that actually the country where this is set is still pretty behind what we would consider to be equal rights for women. Holy Spider, a great watch, but also a very tough one that I would kind of caveat recommending. Okay, number 4, we are talking about Air.
I'm gonna build a shoe line around one guy.
Who's the player?
Michael Jordan. I've never had a feeling like this.
For a rookie who's never set foot on an NBA court. I found him. Who's that? Jesus? Can't afford him.
There's nothing cool about Nike.
Are you trying to ruin your career? I believe in you.
A shoe is just a shoe until my son steps into it.
Air, rated R.
So Air, people will say, well, this is just a film about a trainer. And again, a bit like another film I'm going to talk about later on. Fuck you, it's not a film about a trainer. It's a workplace drama. And also Air in particular is the film about what it means to recognise talent. And I think sometimes films are all about you being the greatest and you being empowered and you being kind of your own lead character and your central thing. And Air puts a real focus on people who just believe in other people, and actually the real heroes are the ones who support the heroes and recognise them and champion them. That's why I really think Air is a great film. On top of that, yeah, it's a film about a trainer. I don't care. Before going in to see Air, some young kids were coming out of the cinema and they said, I don't care about basketballs, I don't care about shoes, but that was one of the best films I'd seen. And when I heard that, I thought, this is interesting. And then when I came out, that is exactly what I thought. I don't care about basketball. I haven't owned a pair of Nike trainers since I was probably about 21. But at the same time, this film is really engaging to watch. The script is great. It's so tight. It keeps on moving forward. There are some really great moments, you know, some really great dialogue in this. It's incredibly funny. Well, not incredibly funny. It's got kind of a sweetness and a lightness to it. And all the performances, I mean, it has an amazing cast, but all the performances in this are really great. You know, again, if you think, oh, fuck it, it's about consumerism, it's about shoes, well, actually, this is kind of a film about the workplace, and like I said before, about recognising greatness and what it means to be a support to someone who's great and championing them. So, Air, available now on Amazon Prime, definitely in the UK, but maybe worldwide available on Amazon Prime, so you can watch that right now. Okay, and then the final pick for this first half of my top 10 list. The number 5 spot is How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Try to stop the pipeline.
Michael, what do you think the odds are we blow ourselves up?
I don't really care.
Structural damage is kind of the point. They will defame us and claim this was violence, but this was justified. This was an act of self-defense.
How to Blow Up a Pipeline, I knew nothing about. I'd maybe kind of read the title. It's a title that stands out, so I think I maybe heard the title somewhere, and I knew nothing about this until I kind of went and I saw the trailer for this randomly before something else, and it just looked like a really great indie thriller that had loads of pace and tension to it. And when I saw it, it had exactly that indie thriller, loads of great tension, pace to it. There's an element that you might think of this as like, oh, it's about annoying Gen Z kids fucking being eco warriors. You know, this is going to irritate the shit out of me. Actually, while I think you can look at it like that, the balance of characters and the way that the tension is crafted and the way the story is constructed is it will keep you really tense and involved all the way through it. It's amazingly well edited without giving too much away. The story is constantly jumping back and forth to the present timeline of them trying to blow up this pipeline, and then jumping back to seeing characters and how they end up getting involved with this, you know, potentially eco-terrorist act. And that is where loads of the drama and tension comes out from. Again, there's no one in this that I really recognised. I hadn't seen any of the director's previous work, but this is a really kind of great indie thriller that I totally would recommend, even if you are slightly put off from the outset, because some of the, you know, kind of eco-politics of this, some people might be put off, but don't let that put you off, because at the end of the day, this is kind of just a really great thriller. Also, somewhat spoilers maybe, is this film very much plants its pole on one side of the whole, you know, kind of, is terrorism a justifiable cause. This film very much plants its flag in the corner of our characters are heroes and they are doing this the right way. It has no ambiguity, and again, that will ruffle some people up the wrong way. I kind of admired it for the fact that it very much didn't sit on the fence, and it puts itself on one side of the coin around climate change activism. Again, the film doesn't glamorise our heroes, but it very much puts them in the perspective. It doesn't add too much ambiguity around whether they're doing the right thing or not. So How to Blow Up a Pipeline, again, another recommendation from me of one of my favourite films of the year. Okay, that's the end of our first part. Again, like I said, I haven't seen everything. There are some things you may have seen that I haven't said yet, or there are some things coming up that you were wondering whether, in part 2 is the titles are going to make up the rest of my films of the year. Comment down below of what you think they may be, and come back later on when I'll go through the final 5 favourite films, my favourite films of 2023. Okay, bye.